What if AI stopped right now? Hey everyone, it's Wolfgang. This is about how AI has started playing a bigger role in everyone's life. So this is not an easy answer. What if AI just disappeared, stopped working like right now? Not too easy to answer that. So let's try to figure this out. It's sort of like, what if you lost access to the internet in the mid to late 1990s? The internet was just taking off. The Netscape browser came out around the mid 1990s. The Netscape browser put a graphical user interface on the internet and made it easy to use for everyone. Sort of what ChatGPT did for artificial intelligence 3 years ago in 2022. So if AI stopped working, how could you replace it? Reasonable question. So one way to answer this question, you can refuse to use artificial intelligence for 8 hours or for an entire day. Just say to yourself, I'm not going to use artificial intelligence. And assess the change to your life, to your productivity, if you stop using it. And try to figure out, what would you replace artificial intelligence with? I mean, how pervasive has AI become? How difficult is it going to be to find something to replace it with? For example, you'd probably end up doing more internet searches, right? More Google searches if artificial intelligence kind of disappeared. Artificial intelligence has slowly crept into everyone's life. It's been kind of a slow creep of AI use, especially on the job. If you're on the job and, because there's an expectation, you're trying to be as productive as possible on the job. If you choose not to use AI, if you come up short, you're going to be compared with other people. So it's in your best interest to use all the productivity tools that allow you to get your work done fast, right? So, it's difficult to get away from artificial intelligence on the job. And here's a personal example. I spilled a glass of water on a computer and ruined it, had to replace it. A new gaming laptop. It was not set up correctly. The latest version of Windows, kind of forced to use that because it came with a new computer, was missing some things and had some serious configuration problems that I could have solved using Google searches, looking at a bunch of arcane language, try this, try that, sort of, maybe it's this. Artificial intelligence provided the answers immediately and sort of helped get, with a couple of exceptions, helped restore productivity, to get the computer working successfully a lot more quickly than in the past, than I would have been able to do in the past. So artificial intelligence for the general masses, for the general population, is being used by about 60% of U.S. citizens after only 3 years. It's only been around 3 years. 60% of the U.S. population is using artificial intelligence now. So if AI stopped, if it just disappeared, it would have pretty serious impact because the majority of the population is using it. So during the course of the day, to try to get an idea of how much you've come to rely on AI, make a note every time you use it. Just write down the time that you used AI. This is not so easy to do because a lot of software comes with AI built in and you're using it and you don't even realize it. But for the explicit times you use it, when you ask AI a question, for example, if you're using any AI search engine, DuckDuckGo, Google, Dogpile, Bing, they're all using AI. Anytime you do a search, part of the results are going to be artificial intelligence generated results, not all of them. And it depends on where you search. But just take a note of every time you use AI, at the end of that day, look at all the entries you made, both for work and personal use, because you use it during the work day. And then if you use the computer on your personal time, including your phone, and you're keeping a record, just one day, just try it. And then look at the end of the day how many times you've used it. And again, most software now uses artificial intelligence, so it's kind of hard to get away from. All right, let's compare the growth of artificial intelligence. We already know 60% of US residents in only 3 years are now using AI. Let's compare it to Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies in general. Only 25% of US residents have Bitcoin or a cryptocurrency. Bitcoin's been around since 2010, I think, is when the white paper came out. 15 years, only a quarter of the population, right? So we're 36 months into the new AI for everyone, and 60%, a majority of the population is using artificial intelligence. So that gives you a sense of the growth. It's blowing crypto away. Everyone thinks crypto is so popular because it gets a lot of media coverage. AI does too, but AI has been adopted by many more people much more quickly than cryptocurrencies. And this is kind of why data centers are being built all over the place. Some people are kind of freaked out about data center growth being, data centers being built. How much energy are they going to use? Is it going to affect electricity bills? Initially, yes, because it takes time for power companies to get the permits, environmental impact studies, and so on, to be able to provide more power to the public. So over time, though, utilities will adapt to the new demand for data centers. Data centers are using a lot of hardware, GPU chips, graphical processing unit chips. NVIDIA is famous for those. They're the market leader for GPU chips. Central processing units, that would be Intel and AMD, providing those mainly. Tensor processing units, this is a Google invention, mainly. Tensor processing units are, they're like, turbochargers for math operations in computers, tensor processing units, and then memory chips. So GPUs, CPUs, TPUs, and memory chips all gathered together into systems assembled inside a data center. Data centers have to run 7 days a week, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, as fault-free as possible. So a pretty intense build-out of artificial intelligence, and 60% of U.S. residents, pretty intense adoption rate of artificial intelligence compared to cryptocurrencies. Artificial intelligence, it's kind of here to stay. If you don't believe artificial intelligence is here to stay, do one of these exercises. Refuse to use AI for 8 hours or an entire day. Take note every time you use it on another day, and you'll start to see how pervasive it's become. Okay, what about revenue and profit from artificial intelligence? A lot of people are saying AI is in a bubble, stocks are going to crash. Okay, they're comparing it to the dot-com bubble burst. Okay, so in those days, early internet companies did not really have revenue and profit expectations or models that were realistic and practical. And when the public discovered there was no money to be made, the way some of those companies were trying to make money, those stocks sold off and it crashed the market. Probably not going to happen with artificial intelligence. Not with this growth rate and not with the profit expectations, okay? Because there's an expectation and industry is sort of on track to have revenue in 3 years' time, and by 2028, of $1.1 trillion from artificial intelligence. $1.1 trillion in revenue by the end of 2028. It's pretty huge. And in terms of earnings, which is what stock prices are based on, AI deployment by companies has led to EBITDA gains of 10 to 25%. Earnings have jumped 10 to 25% by companies adopting AI. Okay? If you're an employee, this is still sort of the early times. It's only been 3 years. If you have AI proficiency that sets you apart, you can command over 50% of a wage premium. Artificial intelligence capabilities are in demand in the job market. That's one part of the economy that if you have AI skills, that part of the economy is really growing. I mean, it would be impossible for it not to grow. 60% of residents have already adopted AI after only 3 years. And earnings are increasing 10 to 25% by companies that adopt it. Okay, so some companies and some people are resisting adopting artificial intelligence. Is there a risk for that? Yes. I mean, the one thing is, try to not use artificial intelligence for an entire day. And see if you replace it with searches, with just traditional old-time searching, and see if you can tolerate it. Companies who do that, companies who refuse to adopt AI because they think it's a passing fad, believe it or not, people thought the internet was a passing fad back in the 1990s. They thought it would all go away. It never went away. It just increased in use. So companies that are resisting AI usage are taking a huge risk, lost productivity. Earlier, I used the example, if you're at work and you're not using AI, your boss will ask you, why not? You should be using all productivity tools that you can to get your work done faster, right? Okay, so some proof that companies are making a mistake if they're not adopting AI. Companies that adopt AI can hire and have a smaller payroll. They can hire fewer people because some low-level, entry-level jobs can be done by AI. Now, that's sort of a polarizing issue right now, while the economy gets used to the loss of some jobs and the gain of other jobs in technology. But the ability for companies that adopt AI to spend less on payroll is a huge deal, and it adds to the revenue because payroll is usually one of the biggest or the biggest expense that companies have. Okay, so that's kind of the proof that there's a lot to gain from using AI. If nothing else, you can operate with a slimmer payroll. You can hire contractors to grow as you needed for projects, and then when the projects are over, the contractors go on to their next gig. A lot of people in technology, that's what they're going to end up doing. They're going to become, one, AI proficient, and two, contractors. They'll become contractors. That happened back in 2000 when the internet started taking off. A lot of people turned to contracting. There's a lot more variety in technology jobs if you're a contractor. If you work 3, 6, 9, 12 months on a project and then move on to the next project at a different company. I did that personally. It was really profitable. So the same is kind of true for personal AI use. If you're not using AI personally, you're kind of making a mistake because you have limited time, personal time during each day. You have a limited amount of time for your, personal free time. You may as well be productive as possible. Otherwise, you're wasting that resource. Your free time is limited, right? Each day. So if you have any questions about this, I've got a background in technology. People think that AI stocks are going to crash. I don't think they're going to crash. Market sentiment might result in sell-offs, but people are going to keep buying artificial intelligence. I mean, this kind of growth after only 3 years is incredible. And the profit and revenue growth is impressive. And it sort of supports the idea that artificial intelligence is not like the internet, like pets.com. They weren't making any money back then. AI companies are making money. If you have any questions about this, please post questions in the comments. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you have. I really